San Diego Comic-Con is this weekend, but those of you who are already camping out in line in front of Hall H may have missed the big comic book news from this week. Marvel Comics is packing up and moving from their offices in New York all the way across the country to the sunny, smoggy climes of California. How does this affect you, the reader? It doesn't. Not directly anyway. But the question of how this is going to impact the comics that Marvel publishes is hanging in the air, and it's an important one. A lot of people have been expecting this to happen ever since Disney bought Marvel back in 2009. Their major rivals, DC Comics, which is owned by Warner Brothers, made the same move back in 2015. But it's kind of different in this situation. With the DC characters, most of them live in fictional cities. Keystone City, Coast City, Gateway City. And it's true that some of those cities are based on real cities. People have theorized that Metropolis is supposed to be New York during the daytime and Gotham City is New York at night. But even then, you wouldn't expect to see Superman and Batman hanging out at the Statue of Liberty the way you would Spider-Man and the Human Torch. And that's the big difference. Marvel Comics has a long history of setting their stories in New York City. Spider-Man, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Doctor Strange. Almost Marvel's entire A-team of characters has links to New York in one way or another. Even the X-Men, an international group of mutants scattered across the country at the moment, have their traditional home at Professor Xavier's mansion in Westchester County in upstate New York. And sure, you don't actually have to be living in New York to tell stories set in New York, but they've always identified so strongly with the city that it's going to feel strange to have them anywhere else. It would be as if the Chicago Bears moved to Hammond, Indiana and kept calling themselves the Chicago Bears. That would just be absurd. Now, obviously, this isn't as big a deal as it once would have been. The days where a comic book creator had to live in the same general area as their publisher are long gone. Writers and artists can and do work from anywhere in the world. Seattle, Austin, Brazil, London, even maybe little towns outside of New Orleans, if anybody's, looking. So this won't have a big impact on the pool of available talent. What will be impacted is the editorial staff, which does typically work out of the main office. People who work in editorial, production, and other in-office jobs are either going to have to be relocated or replaced. And the first of those replacements has already been announced. Marvel's editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, has announced that he's stepping away from that role and taking a new job overseeing Marvel's operations in Tokyo. His replacement is former Marvel editor Stephen Wacker. I like this choice, by the way. Wacker has a proven track record, not just with Marvel, but with other companies. He's shepherded a lot of good stories, a lot of good talent. He was the editor who held together DC's ambitious weekly year-long comic book 52 back in 2006. And anybody who can keep that runaway train from going off the rails deserves respect. So here are the big questions that comic book fans have to be asking themselves. And I'll tell you right now that I don't know the answers to any of these. I'm just putting the questions out there. Number one, how will this influence the comics themselves? There's no question that it will. Ultimately, the editor-in-chief is the one steering the ship, guiding the editorial direction of the entire line of comic books. If you look back at different EICs of the past, you can see certain themes and concepts that define each of their eras. Jim Shooter brought in the age of the crossover with Secret Wars, and he tried to expand the line with things like Marvel's New Universe and Star Comics. Tom DeFalco presided over an era of reinvention and expansion of the Marvel Universe itself. Joe Quesada pissed off Spider-Man fans. We don't know what the Wacker era will bring yet, but I've got my fingers crossed. Number two, what other people are going to be leaving Marvel as a result of this relocation? Cebulski, of course, was the editor-in-chief. He was the big boss, but there are a lot of other editors in Marvel Comics that are going to have to make a big decision. At the time that I'm making this video, no further announcements have been made, but I'm sure they're forthcoming. And number three, how will being this close to their corporate parent, Disney, affect Marvel Comics? In the years that the MCU was growing in prominence, there were lots of small, subtle things that were done to bring the comic books closer in line with what was happening in the movies. The question is that going to continue? Is that going to be even more pronounced than it was before? Or is Disney just going to try to stay hands-off? I kind of doubt that last one, actually. It's hard to imagine that they would have them move across the country just so they could leave them alone. Whatever the case, I will be watching intently to see what else there is to be said, and I will certainly be listening for any more news that comes out of San Diego this week.
Daddy, what's PI effect Mendo?